I am super excited today. I am covering one of my favourite ever products. It is Woodfall by Lazy Lich. This is a micro setting that kind of changed how I saw how things could be done. I'd come from 5e and I read this and I just went, oh my god, this is how something should be written. I wanted to run it so much. So let's just get stuck straight in. Okay, all the artwork is really, really cool. It's done by Lazy Lich as well. The only thing, like, I can't print it as a booklet because there's so much black in it. Now, I do have some of his other stuff like this, but I haven't got this one yet. So, but it's definitely on my list to get as a zine. So it's kind of like a hex environment, but it's not a hex crawl, based in a swamp where there's lots of cool and crazy stuff going on. The starting point is I think these tables could be a little bit better, but they're linked to things later on which improves them. But having them here in the back, that's like the only negative thing I can say about this entire thing. It starts off by saying that this is in a kingdom in opposition. So there is like a tyrant who hates the people that live here, and they are up kind of almost fighting against him in a way. It's a mini setting that you can just drop into your campaign. I would run the crap out of this because it's so cool. It gives you an idea of what the intent is made with this. So players are going to have their own narrative. They will receive very little XP from killing monsters. Monsters are not balanced. This is all stuff that I love. However, it would be more interesting. The game is dangerous. Players' death is possible. There's a focus on resource management, which is really cool, that could be tracked. And players will come up, will need to be creative to kind of get through it. Now, Woodfall is a swamp that belongs to a king where witches, thieves and outlaws are squatting. They have been built a town on the top of a swamp and have resisted several evictions. The town is the hub for black market activity. There are loads of rumours about Woodfall. Normally I'm like, I'm not so big into false rumours, but for here it kind of creates story because it's not false rumours that are going to mess the players up. And I think, right, let me zoom in a little bit, I think this is where I fell in love with it. You're now leaving the kingdom and entering self-governed witch territory. Just really cool, great artwork as well. So hooks for getting the players involved. It starts off really, really strong. I would almost give a hook to each player because it would help them kind of like figure out what they wanted to do. So the character is a paid spy for the kingdom, tasked with retrieving vital information for the king and earning the witch's trusts. Or the character is a paid bounty hunter sent to the village to extract somebody. The character is found to capture fairies who want to be brought to Woodfall. The character is find a captured fairy who wants to be brought here, and there's more in the fairies as you go in. There's really, really great hooks that would add actually flavour to your players, which is great. So about Woodfall. Woodfall was built on top of rotting wooden walkways connecting earth mounds that act as platforms for shacks, tents and wobbly houses. The population is consisted of or composed of witches, outlaws, misfits, heretics and magical creatures hunted down throughout the lands. This muddy patch of kingdom is the last place where they feel safe. The king had the village evicted and burned to the ground some years ago, but the village has since rebuilt and reoccupied. Folk throughout the kingdom speak of the king's plans for a second eviction, one that will end the occupation. It really feels kind of Shrekish, which is cool. And there is this kind of like constant fight between this village of witches, which you traditionally see in a different way, and the evil kingdom that wants rid of this dirty eyesore. It paints a really beautiful picture of it. I'm going to show you a map in a minute, which I think is maybe the best map of a village I've ever seen. The walkways are lit with magical candles, and the moon seems to visit much more often than the sun does. Yeah, cool. This is the map of the village. How cool is that? It's just loads of swamp with little walkways between. I absolutely adore the map. I adore the art in it as well. It gives you a brief history of the town, which is a really cool way of doing it. The economy of Woodfall. This is going to give you an insight into... This thing is just so useful, but it will give you an insight into what this town is actually like. So this gives you a really cool little diagram that looks crazy complicated of how Woodfall fits into the city. They are exporting magical stolen goods which go via the black market, alcohol, magical scrolls. from local farms. They people are coming there for healing and stuff like that. They're exporting goods. It's cool. Gold profit that comes through the black Woodfall. A lot of Woodfall's gold comes through the black market. Inside the town, law dictates that people can be artisans or operate individual businesses as long as they own their own tools and resources. Also, you can operate cooperative businesses. Everybody in the town is given a third of an acre of plot for cultivating mushrooms. Tax in Woodfall is voluntary. It's a proper hippie commune of witches and others. Residents opt in to give tax towards services they want to pay for and support. One of those is a coin welfare system that is funded in large part by the Thieves Guild. People in Woodfall can own their own property, their own personal possessions, the walkways, healing supplies, infrastructure, and the large tools that are used are communally owned. Law in Woodford is individuals cannot expand their plot, and all the plots are of equal size. Individuals cannot own property that they are not using unless they're in jail. It's just not what you would think a setting could be. The legal system is collectively written up and agreed upon by Woodfall residents. Stealing from people within Woodfall is illegal. Allowed annoying and drunk at night. If you're being allowed annoying and drunk, it's legal for people to cast silence charms on you. Witch burners will be burnt. It's illegal to be too wealthy. I love that. All taxes are voluntary. You can carry as many heavy weapons as you want. You can practice all types of magic unless it involves the sacrifice of intelligent creatures. Necromancy is legal, but you need prior permission prior to death or consent prior to death. Love potions are illegal. Very, very cool. So within the town there are loads of... The thing that makes this thing brilliant is the factions, the relationships between them. It's a live setting and it feels it. So within the town there is a Woodfall welfare group, which manages and redistributes donated cash and resources to the needy. Once you're a resident, you get access to this. There's a healing association. They do not prioritise adventurers, but they hire local people. They hire all the local, not just for the village, but or for Woodfall, but all the ones people who can't afford healing elsewhere. There is a crisis action team, which is a group of female residents, mostly witches that run a large house. For women escaping arranged marriages abuse and arranged marriages in the surrounding country. They also give witch training. This kind of implies local setting. It's kind of referenced later, and it's a really cool thing that this place is a haven for people because there are arranged marriages happening, but it also adds a level of politics to it, that there's people... Arranged marriages would typically be from nobility, so there's people from nobility running to escape to come here, which causes huge amounts of issues and adds more to the kind of like the political tension and issues between here and the kingdom, which is super cool. Now, look at this art. I want this shop in my game. It's super cool. It's a shop of masks that exists here. I'm going to give you just one of the masks, but there's loads of them. They're really cool. A mask of hunger. This mask imparts a powerful bite attack and a sense of smell to its wearers, as well as an uncontrollable hunger that increases the longer you wear it. The mask cannot be removed before its hunger is satiated. Really cool magic items. Within the town there is also the Crooked Inn. All profits of the Crooked Inn go towards the Woodfall welfare system. It's basically a communal type place. The cheapest rooms are random nooks with pillows stuffed into them for sleeping. The most luxurious room is one that an elf could stand in, just bigger than a bed. It's known as the big room. Really, really nice stuff that can be bought in here. Red mead made from honey of giant bees and an invisible flower. It turns the brew red, and makes the drinker more likely to discover secrets. People tend to drink this to become intoxicated in dungeons, which is going to cause a load of trouble in order to find those secret doors. It gives you a bunch of regulars that are in here. Really, really cool regulars with loads of stuff. There's a fence within the town. It buys all stolen goods, then sells them on for a profit. It's entirely run by skeletons. The skeletons cannot speak, so they barter with bits of paper. And none of the stuff you can sell there is can be stolen from locals or artisans. There's a forger Shadowy Group offers one of the best forgeries in the land. There are so many things that your players can get their hands into, be involved, and especially if you build out a big city next to it. I just think there could be so much fun had there. There's a Ravenry there so you can sell messages through 4 different people. Necromancy. A small number of intelligent undead live in the village. It's one of the only places they can live without being killed, which is really, really cool. There's also people in the town will give permission for their bodies to, after they die, to be after a certain period of time, to be raised as skeletons, so they can perform menial labour and help the town out. Super hippie, super cool. The healing tent. Poor villagers and country folk cannot afford to pay healers without going into debt. Folk travel from far and wide to seek free healing. And again, this is issues for the local, the king who runs the local kingdom, because villagers actually want this place. It's almost a Robin Hood type vibe. The Thieves Guild. This is cool. So thieves, you only get to keep 40% of your plunder, but you do get to get all the XP. It would bring a very different style of campaign. 10% goes back to the guild, 10% goes to the healing tent, 10% goes to welfare, 10% goes to the FLF, which we're going to get to in a minute, and 10% is distributed to the poor, and 10% goes to cat. Really cool. Could you imagine running a heist type game where you had mixed type adventurers that were getting tips, going into the local city, pulling jobs, coming back here, doing other stuff that's getting involved? It would be something really different and really cool, being not an I'm all in it for me type campaign. Potion shop. Potion shop is really cool. It's in the largest tree in the village. Inside is one of the oldest witches in Woodfall. Selling plants and components to Maria. You can, as you kill monsters or as you collect stuff from the swamps, you can bring this stuff back and sell them back to Maria or get components. And there's other ways later in this to actually help you create your own magic items from it as well. So it means there's a reason to explore and find stuff so you can create. And I love that. And I know so many players who would just adore it. Here's give you an example of a cool potion. A fast sealing potion seals holes up to 1 square foot in size instantly. I don't know how they would use that, but players would find an amazing way to use that, because when you've got cool stuff, you find cool ways to use it. Hirelings, really cool hirelings. Elise, sister paid for her to be cured by a healer back in town. This bankrupted her sister and she was put in debtor's prison. Elise needs to send funds to her sister every month to keep her alive. She wants to break her out, but does not have the resources and wants to earn them as a hireling. What does your party do when they hire somebody like that? It just creates story and adventure and things that the players themselves want to drive, which is what you want in a campaign. There's a king's spy in here. The king wants this place closed. It's a secret agent. I'm not going to go into details in case somebody's reading it, but they're sent there to identify the most effective tactic to ensure Woodfall is not reoccupied after the next eviction, which is going to happen. Encourage internal. Basically, they're just going to mess up the town, and that's something that the players won't be aware of. But it again gives you as a DM so much stuff that you can start using. The fairies of Woodfall. I adore this. The fairies are a prison. 1 second here. The fairies are imprisoned as slaves and traded all over the kingdom. Among nobles, fairies are collected. And to render luck on the house. Wizards also experiment on them, and monsters eat them to absorb their powers. Fairy have got a pretty crap deal. One of the only safe places left to exist is in Woodfall. And the FLF is the Fairy Liberation Front, and it's a resistant movement. The Fairy Liberation Front, that's just amazing. So much story could be brought in. Again, stories could be driven from this. The king has decreed it is illegal for fairies to exist without human masters. The king has also successfully put forth a narrative that captured fairies are well cared for, and dissenting fairies are just a marginal minority. Again, more and more campaign fodder. And this is what when I was reading this, I was just thinking there's so much you could do with this without having to make effort. It's not, it's not one of those adventures where it's you do this, you do this, you do this. This would be so player driven it would be untrue. Loads of really interesting NPCs that you can create. You throw 3 of them into, or 5 of them into here, and you've now all of a sudden got a really cool relationship thing. 2 of them are childhood friends. 2 of them want help. These 2 want to kill each other. Really nice little tool to use, and loads of cool NPCs. You pick out the ones you like, and they'll become kind of like the stars of your show, more than likely. Again, the art is super cool. Look at that. Really great. I'm guessing this is on top of the tavern, looking down over the village. That's just the town. You now have the swamp. This thing is 96 pages. This is brilliant. This is a relationship of the factions within the swamp. So useful, and it gives you details about all of these things. But there is, for example, the mutant clan, and you can see how they feel about the bog witches. They've made threats not to come near their home, or they'll wipe out the clan. You can find out who they hate, who they don't hate. So whenever the players are kind of engaged in it, it's an easy way to actually manage the relationships, which is really cool. And you can see the amount of factions that they give details on as well. Really, really cool. I'm going to flip. I'm not going to go through everything in massive detail because there's so much in here. The mutant clan. These things are mutated. They know how to cure themselves, but they can't cure themselves because they'll end up spreading the mutations. There's a chance that your players could get mutated by getting in contact with them, but they've got a recipe of stuff that you can get to help cure them. If you cure them, cool things happen, which is really great. There is a druid in there. I won't go into too much. Goblins. This is cool. The Goblin Punk Fortress. Punk rocker goblins, amazing. It's a doomsday cult who worship and receive orders from a mysterious orb. They've got a couple of things they've been instructed to do. The first thing is to kill creatures and impale their heads. A bit gruesome. The second thing is to create a magical blight which will spread. I'm going to say this word again and again in this: active participants. These cults, these factions are active participants in the world. If you don't do stuff with them, they will do stuff to the world. They will impact things. The story develops and the entire setting is alive and feels alive. Really, really cool. This is how you take a boring monster like a goblin and do cool stuff with them. Spikers. Covered in spikes, they throw themselves at enemies. Brewers, they drink alcohol that's infused with speed potions and distribute them. So imagine having one of those distributing potions, making people faster. How the players are going to have to figure out how they deal with this the different configurations of these goblins you could throw at them. Scrap from metal and toad, they can't actually go into the swamp because they're too heavy, but really hard to hit. Cultists, these shoot beams of energy from their eyes and cause random mutations. Between these, you could mix so many configurations of what to throw at your players. Super, super cool thing to do. Nice fortress. Lonely Troll, I'm going to skip over that, and the Frogmen because there's just too much stuff to go. I love this. Revolutionary Council Corps. Some of these pictures are very, very close to the bone, which I like. And 3 years ago, there was a schism where the Necromancers Guild of Woodfall, half of them were exiled because basically they were not obeying the rules. They wanted to be dicks. So these are again an active participant. They are recruiting people. There's a little way that you can tell how powerful they're getting, and they will impact the world and do bad stuff if not dealt with. Again, nice dungeon. Cool, just a really cool little faction, and this is where it comes alive because factions make settings alive. There are witches there that live on skin, really not kind of cool. Cult of the Stag. Cult of the Stag is a group of 7 druids who worship the forest. They want to spread the wilderness back across the lands and destroy civilization. Again, these are active participants. They're going to impact the world if you don't deal with them. I'm not going into so much because there's so much in here, but really, really cool factions. The Swamp Camp. There is a camp just outside Swamp where they search people going in. It's a man checkpoint, and it was set up to catch convicts. They're looking to gauge support. Engaging support, they discovered that loads and loads of the locals go there because they can't afford healing. So, which has made the soldiers hesitant to burn the place to the ground, because they don't want to have all the locals upset with them. So they're offering free training for locals to become healers, to just try and get rid of this swamp. And the guy in charge is totally obsessed with seeing the village destroyed. Again, this is another faction that will interplay with other stuff, and they are active participants in the world. There's a monster camp with cool monsters in it. The swamp people, swamp encounters. This is better. This improves the swamp stuff from earlier on. It kind of gives you what they're doing, what the issues are with them, and gives you more details on really, really cool monsters that live within this swamp, which is great. I'm not going to go into massive detail on all of these, but there are great encounters within here once you get into here. So Roger, an ambassador for the forest on the Order of the Woods, they're just nice things that are fully fledged out encounters that you can use. Great monsters within here. Monster hunting, I absolutely adore this part of it. So you can hunt monsters, and if you get monsters, you can get certain things from them. With getting these certain impacts, they can be used for potions, they can be used to create other items in them, and it makes going into the swamp an adventure and gives players reasons to go out there. The problem you're going to have is there's so many things for your players that they're going to want to do, which is really cool. Really nice random treasure. Very, very interesting treasure that does nice, cool little things, which I adore. DIY magic items, again, reasons to go into the swamp to get stuff, gives you instructions on how you can create potions, how you can create wands, how you can create scrolls, and again gives you more reason to go out and experiment and be part of this world. Really great information on the things that you can put into your magic items. Changes over time. This is really cool. So the setting is alive because there's so many active players in it. What happens if the goblin spore device is completed, if you haven't interacted with them? The cult, the necromancers, what happens if they get in? What happens if the Woodfall people get evicted? So many things that can happen that just will naturally happen and carry this campaign forward, and you're playing it for ages. Really, some great stuff that would happen in town. Overall, this is just a beautiful zine. Absolutely beautiful, amazingly written, amazing artwork in it, super fun. I can't wait to run this. I don't know what I would run this with. Possibly old swords, maybe the white hack, because it's so open in what you could play, and it would give the players that bit of creativity. To be honest, I wouldn't care what I ran it in, but a fantastic setting. I love it to bits. I'll put links below for it. Really, really cool. And the other stuff from Lazy Lich is really, really cool as well. I'll probably cover it at some point in the future, but this is by far one of my favourite things I've ever read. So hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you next week.